Nice. And I will share my screen. Hi. Thank you all so much for coming today. My name is Kristina Dorsett. I'm one of the librarians here at Widener. And I love posters. I love graphic design in general, but posters are really special to me because it's a way that we can visualize all of the hard work that you've done. So when they asked me to do a demonstration for working with posters, I said, absolutely. And I have a resource that's made just for you guys. So this is what we call a subject guide. You can get to it from the library's homepage, widener.edu/Wolfgram. So the librarians actually have a lot of these subject guides that we've created. And when I make them, it is for midnight before the paper is due. So I know that that's not the time frame that you're actually going to be working on, but the point is that they are stocked with information so that if you have to do this assignment on your own, hopefully you have the resources that you would need to do that. Now, luckily, you don't have to do it on your own. I'm going to be here today to guide us through this, but in the future, the way that you would find it is going to our subject guides. So this is the library's homepage. I'm going to subject guides and then search for poster. We've got quite a few guides. This will be the fastest way to get it. And the first result is usually where you need to go. I'm also just going to drop this URL in our chat so that everyone who's here has access to it. So where we're actually going to begin is under planning our poster. And the first, and I think one of the most important steps, is defining your audience. So with the Grad Research Symposium, that's actually pretty easy, right? We're talking about other graduate researchers, our mentors, our advisors, and our instructors, right? And the general public who would like to come and see. But we're focused more on other researchers. So that's a really good benefit. That means that we don't have to explain things like parts of the research process or what a randomized controlled trial would be. But you do still have to explain the jargon that's specific for your subject and for your research. And so, of course, that's going to be in our background information. But just keep in mind that you're creating this poster for your audience. So what you want your audience to get out of it is going to be what helps you make a lot of the decisions along the way. So that's why I talk about it first, because it really does come in handy whenever you're saying, oh, do I want to make this bigger? Do I want to make this smaller? Whenever you put it in the perspective of, okay, what's going to help my audience understand my research? That is when things start clicking into place. I also have a worksheet. If you like worksheets, I do. I like having something physical. So you can download and print this out. If you have a tablet that you can write on, you can write on it on your tablet. But basically, this is my process for whenever I have to plan a poster. And step one is always looking for my audience. So step two is talking about the content. We have different parts of our posters, right? But you don't have to have every single part of a paper in a poster. You might not have an entire methodology section in your poster because you want to take that space and use it for what will help your viewer the most, which will probably be your results and your conclusions. So just keep that in mind. If you don't necessarily have a huge conclusion, if it's just a couple of sentences, maybe you can put the conclusion at the end of your results and save yourself that space. That's really the hardest part with posters, is fitting everything on the size that you have to work with. So those are a couple of things that you can do to maximize the amount of size that you have. So thinking about the different parts of the poster, if you look in my worksheet, I have circles next to them, and that's because I like to number them in order of importance. And this refers back to my audience. So what is the most important thing that they have to understand first? And usually that's going to be in the introduction and the background information, right? You want to make sure that they've got a solid footing there. But then what's the next step? And whenever you start thinking of it that way, like I said, the poster really does start to come together. One of the things that I love about posters and that a lot of other people hate is that they usually involve graphics of some kind, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about visualization, but I also want to talk about just good old-fashioned graphics because those are a great way to engage with the audience. So we want to use our best practices. We want to make sure that all of our graphics are clear, that they're at a high enough resolution where they can be seen. Usually that will be at a 300 pixels per inch. If you don't have the ability to control how many pixels per inch, that is totally okay. Usually what you're working with in PowerPoint is clear enough that whenever you drag and drop into a PowerPoint file, it'll be clear enough with the resolution when you have the finished product. So if you have the ability to change your PPI, awesome. If you don't stress about it. The way PowerPoint is built is to help you create these kinds of things. So more information about copyright is available, but we have some really great resources that are free. And one of those is the Google image search. So let's do imagegoogle.com. And let's say I want to find a nursing image. In Google Images, you have tools that you can set for usage rights. So Creative Commons, if you were to watch the video on copyright, it goes into Creative Commons, but Creative Commons licenses are open for people to use without paying. So whenever we select this filter under our image tools, it means that all of these images are available for us to use without breaking anyone's copyright and making sure that everyone is happy and we don't get in trouble for breaking that copyright. But this is just only one of the ways that we can find royalty-free images. And actually, that's what we will be searching for. The term to use is royalty-free stock photos. The sponsored will usually be something that you have to pay for, but underneath your sponsored results, you have Pexels, Pexels, Unsplash, and Pixabay. These are great resources for photographs. So here we have high resolution photos that you can download for free. You can attribute the author if you'd like, but it is not required. If I have extra space that's not filled after I make sure that all of my poster components match. So whenever I make a poster, we'll get into this a little bit later, all of the body text needs to be the same size. It all needs to be the same color. Whenever we standardize things like text, color, and size, it makes space in our brain to actually understand the research and not get distracted by thinking, these words look weird and I don't know why. And I'll show you an example that does not have them standardized so that you know a little bit more of what I'm talking about. But once we make those standardizations, if there are little gaps that could use something in them, that's whenever I start heading to the stock photos and I get something that explains my concept just a little bit more. And I do want to talk some about graphic design and how we can use it with just a touch of psychology. So, in marketing, if you include pictures of people in your marketing materials, it creates an instant connection with your audience. And that's exactly the same for posters. So if you're able to include an image of a person on your poster, you're automatically going to get more engagement with your viewers and your audience. So I highly recommend doing that whenever you can. This is a great resource for finding those. We also have Flickr Commons. They have a very similar drop-down menu that lets you search for things that are available for commercial use. So now we get into the actual poster of it all. There is a reason that designing your poster is not the first thing on this page. And that's because I highly recommend planning first, especially when it's a poster that it might be one of the first posters you've ever made, right? So whenever you put in the planning, it makes the rest of the process go a lot easier. I'm going to show you a poster that I created this past semester, and I was able to create the entire poster in about 2 hours just because I had already done all of the planning beforehand. It helps so much. So that is my takeaway. Plan first. And now we're getting into our actual poster. What we're going to want whenever we design is to start in the upper left-hand corner. And that's because we are English readers, and in English, we start in the upper left-hand corner. So that's where you'll see most posters' introduction and background information, because that's the first thing that you want your audience to see. This is also a great place to put that graphic. If you end up having extra space available to add a picture, the upper left-hand corner is going to immediately grab someone's attention and make them pay attention to what your poster is presenting. Also, we're going to either read up and down the columns or across the rows. So make that decision for your viewer. A lot of the things that they will need to understand your research go in a particular order. So help them out, do that for them, and create a way to read your poster that makes sense chronologically. So you guys are working with a template, which means that you don't have a whole lot of control over the margins and the white space and all of that fun stuff. But that's okay, because I've helped you out with that as much as I can. So you should be able to, with your template, start copying and pasting into these text boxes right away. Where was I going with that? So the negative space that they're talking about are these margins that are over on the side. You guys don't need to worry about that. The margins are built into your template. But it is a good rule of thumb to use as few words as possible on your poster, especially since this is a poster that you're able to present. So in some poster sessions, or in some conferences rather, they will have a poster hall where you have gigantic posters that are like 6 foot by 4 foot, and they have this much text on them because there's no person standing next to them to explain what the research is. You guys have the person standing next to them to explain what the research is. So that's why I recommend using as few words as possible, because when you do, and you clear out space for those margins and that negative space, your brain has a place to rest and comprehend the visuals that it's being exposed to. So that's a big difference there between something that would work for a poster hall, but not necessarily for a poster presentation. So small differences, but I do recommend using negative space. With our fonts, we have serif and sans serif, so with feet and without little feet. I do give some recommendations for sizes up here. These are for posters that are printed at your size. So this is what I usually recommend. If you can't get it this large, which is fine, it's totally okay. These are just recommendations, right? I wouldn't go smaller than 14 points in the body text. So that's going to be what is put in as your abstract or your materials and methods. I wouldn't go below a 14-point font. And with your section headings, I wouldn't go below a 24-point font. And that's what these are going to be. So these are set at 25. I wouldn't go any smaller than that. And then finally, color. Color is fascinating to me because color is seen differently by different people regularly, right? They could say that no two people see color exactly the same way. So I find that fascinating. But for posters, that means that we have to be very purposeful when we use color. And so putting in all of the colors because we enjoy all of the colors is not actually going to help your audience understand your research. So instead, when you do use color, make sure that color has a job. Make sure that that color is actually doing work on your poster. So in this example, all of the headlines, all of the headers are in orange. Great. If I see anything orange on this poster, I'm going to know implicitly that that's the header. They don't say it, they don't describe it, but that's how they've designed it to work. And that's what I want you guys to think of whenever you're using color. Okay, so I want to include the color blue. What is it doing? Is it shouting something out? Am I bringing more attention to a part of my research? That is a great way to use color. Also, whenever you're using charts and graphs, you're going to want to use different colors to show the differences between what you're charting. So I stick to anywhere between 2 and 4 colors. I don't like going above 4, especially if I don't have charts or graphs. It's not helpful. What you want to focus on is contrast. So having a light background with dark text on top of it will have enough contrast that people can see it. And since that is the template that you're working on, that's what I'm going to recommend. Anytime you are printing a poster, I highly recommend working on a light background. And that's just because of the mechanics of printing, right? So you're putting ink on paper. If you are doing a fully black background, that means that paper is going to be fully saturated with ink. It could take longer to print. It could print in a streaky quality. So you see streaks across the whole of the poster. So to avoid that, stick with a lighter background and it'll be easier for the printer to handle. All right, we've covered a lot. We've covered some guidelines. We've covered talking about graphics, which is a lot of fun, but you guys have to actually make a poster. So you've got your Canvas page that has the template on it. I hope the template works for you. If you guys have trouble with it, please let me know. I am happy to fix any errors that might be in it, but this is what we have. There are 3 pages just because there are 3 different options. So we have 1, we have 2 that has 3 columns instead of 4. And then the third option kind of goes away from the strict lines, and it might work better if you're using oversized images or if you want to make sure that you don't have lines blocking any of the text or any of the graphics that you're putting in. So you can select to use any of these 3, and you should be able to click in and type just how you would with any other kind of template. And copying and pasting works really well too. But eventually, in everyone's PowerPoint, things start moving, right? So we're doing work. We're working in here. We want to make sure that we have the words right and all of that. And things sometimes get moved around so that people, researchers, spend half of the time on their PowerPoint poster fiddling with an edge, trying to make it line up to another edge. We don't need to do that. PowerPoint has built-in alignment features, and I'm going to show you how they work right now. So I am going to click and hold down the Shift key to select more than one text box. And when I start selecting them, I get a new tab that pops open right here. So I'm going to deselect so that you'll see the shape format tab go away. And then whenever I select it again, it pops right back up. So that is the tab that we're going to be using. I'm going to select everything that I want lined up here, and I'm going to go to the shape format tab and head to the align buttons. So they're right over here. Whatever we align to will be where everything jumps. So I'm going to align all of these elements to the bottom so that the one that got moved up too high will get brought back down to where it needs to go. So I'm going to do that right now. It pops it right back down. And then because they also got moved side to side, I'm going to distribute them horizontally. And that's going to make sure that the spaces between each of those text boxes are the same. So your days of fiddling around and trying to get this to fit right and to make all of those red arrows line up the way that they're supposed to are hopefully gone. I hope that none of you guys end up in PowerPoint prison doing all of that work, because you don't need to. There are better ways. Also, once you're finished, I recommend taking your header and your body text, going to the shape format tab again, and grouping them together. And it's not giving me the option to do so. So that might be blocked in this template. Yeah, it looks like that's blocked in this template. So don't worry about that, sorry. But if you're working in other templates, sometimes you can group the text boxes together so that they work as one. This one doesn't do that. That's totally okay, but you'll need to use the alignment features to get things back in check if they get out of control. All right. This is a very quick demo. I do want to just introduce anyone who has not come before to Smart Art. So I am now in the Insert tab, and I'm headed here to Smart Art. This is actually really helpful. Well, not necessarily that one specifically, but it can help you figure out different ways to present your information. So let's say you had a process. It was a 3-step process where one process led to the other. This is a really easy way to format something that looks nice, has the right colors, et cetera, and can be edited inside the PowerPoint itself. So you can make this the size you need it to be. Oh, undo is a good friend to have as well. And position your Smart Art wherever you would like for it to go in your poster. So I will give you an example of that right here. So this was a poster that I was given from some of my faculty, and they said, we just want it to look a little bit more engaging. And I said, you got this. So anytime that I see a list, I want to break that list up into groupings. And the reason I want to do that is because we have seen a million lists in our lives and our eyes go right over them. We don't stop, we don't pass go, we don't collect $200, we just fly through a bulleted list. So by taking that list and changing it into an arrangement here, I've created something where your eye will stop and actually absorb that information. Now, I also did what I had mentioned earlier, which is doing the work for the viewer. Instead of giving the standard deviation before and after, I did the rate of change. And these cute little graphics that I have are free, and they are from a source called flaticon.com. You can create a free account here and download icons that are beautiful and well-made, professional-looking icons. I'll stick with our same topic since I've been using it all day. So if you wanted a lovely nurse on your poster, you can download this and use this graphic. What you have to do is attribute them. So whenever you're on your reference page, you would say icon by Mavity from flaticon.com. And whenever you download it, it will tell you, hey, remember to attribute this person, so that you'll remember to do it. I have another visualization here. Basically, the point behind this is to think about the message that you're sending to your audience. The message here was about what happened before the fieldwork experience and after. So that is what I changed my x-axis to represent. And this is the finished product. And you'll see that the little phase graphic over here, that's just Smart Art. It's built into PowerPoint. So I know I'm almost out of time. I didn't leave a lot for questions. Sorry about that, but I am available for questions if you have them. And I'm also available for one-on-one consultations if you want one-on-one help with your visualization, just getting some ideas out there and brainstorming.
Yeah, we have some more time. If people do want to ask questions, feel free to raise your hand or you can type it in the chat and we can read them. But we're very open to any of your questions.
Yep. And it is a lot of content, especially for a midweek afternoon. So I definitely understand that as well. Yeah, Christopher?
Yeah, hi, sorry, I might have missed it, but where are the templates located at for the Widener versions of the
So I was told that those are in your Canvas page. Is that right?
Yes, so I'm Carolina. Hi, I'm the GA who's working with Nix, and we are working together to organize the research showcase. And we created a Canvas page for all of you, and there are a bunch of different modules. And under poster design, there is a module that has Widener poster template 36 by 24, and that is the file that you can download, and then you can use one of the 3 pages for your design.
Oh, okay, thank you. Let me check that out and see if I got it.
We have a question in the chat. Can you bullet information or does it have to be paragraph/full sentence form for posters?
I love a good bullet. Yeah, a bullet will keep you from putting in too many words. So absolutely. I will say that usually instead of a bulleted list, I would do a grouping with icons, but you don't have to do that. It's just a suggestion. I love a bulleted list though. Anything to get fewer words on the page is a positive. I hope to have it added to caption. I hope to have captions added to the video by Friday. I've already had some other requests for it. So that's my goal for uploading the Zoom video. You're welcome, Eunice. Are there certain sections that shouldn't have a bulleted list? No, I don't think so. I think bulleted lists are no, I don't think so. I think bulleted lists would be appropriate in pretty much any section. Of course, used with purpose. So in an introduction, I probably wouldn't have an introduction that was one sentence and then 5 bullet points. I might have a little bit more of a descriptor in the introduction that is more paragraph form, maybe a couple of sentences, and then 2 or 3 bullets before you start getting into the body text of your research.
I think I saw another hand raised. Saeed, did you have a question still or was it already answered?
Okay. I hope it was answered. All right. Well, I will also put my email in the chat so that you guys can. Oh, Saeed, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. My screen went black.
Oh no.
Uh, okay, my question is it okay to have a big figure in the poster? When I say big figure, I means almost 1/3 of the poster, because I feel the figure will explain a lot about my research.
Yes. The size of space allocated for each portion should be relevant to how important that information is for your viewer. And if you've got a graphic that explains it, blow it up as large as you can. The hardest part is fitting everything in such a set space on the poster. So as much space as you can devote to making sure they understand it, the better.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and actually, that reminds me of the poster that I wanted to show you. Hang on just one second. This was one that I made in the fall. There we go. So this is a 3 foot by 4 foot poster that I created from a project that the librarians worked on, where we actually featured the research that you guys have been doing. So this includes the Graduate Research Symposium from 2022, and some of the other posters and Impact Practices Fair, like all of that kind of stuff. And you'll see the graphic actually takes up 2/3 of the entire poster. And that's because we wanted to make sure that people could see what we had produced, and what we had produced was this physical display. So that's why I made the graphic as large as I did here. But yeah, I made it as big as I could because I knew that it was going to deliver the most information. All right.
I have a general aesthetic question. You said that the background is best if it's kept light. How do you feel about like coloring the fill of a text box? Like, do you think that they should leave it kind of clear so that you see through to the background, or kind of color the background in beneath the text?
That's personal preference. It really depends on the contrast. What's most important is that it can be seen, and so you're going to want dark against light. If you've got a light background with a light text box and then dark text on top of it, what's the point of having the text box? But if you are using a darker background and you still want to use dark text, you can use the text box fill to create more white space on the canvas, and then that's not as hard to print. It won't be as streaky. So it's all a choice. Just make sure you've got contrast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else with questions, or should we wrap it up?
I might have a question, but maybe I'll direct it to Ms. Carolina. So once we prepare our posters, do we have to send them to you first before we post them in the Canvas?
So you can post it directly in the Canvas, because that goes to me and Nix, and we will be the ones reviewing it before we share with the printers. So it's easiest if you post on Canvas, then I have everyone's associated with their name. For organization purposes, we'll review it, we'll let you know whether or not there's anything that would need to be shifted or adjusted or anything like that. And then we will send it to the printers, and we will send it to Jill Boren, who will post it on the digital archives. So yeah, directly to the Canvas whenever you're done.
Okay, okay.
Good
And
question.
is there a specific area on the poster or when we submit that would like cite every source for the information that we have?
So
So-
I actually like including a QR code for my like bibliography or resources.
Okay,
Have you worked with that before?
I have not, but I can probably ask around, and if not, maybe I can email you and set a couple
Well,
of minutes.
really quickly, if you have access to OneDrive because of our Microsoft accounts, right? So everything in OneDrive, if you access it through a browser, has a share link to it. So I'm just going to get to something that I can share, something basic. Whenever you get over the file in your browser, you see this little square that has an arrow sticking out of it.
Yes.
That is your share link. So you can copy it here, and it'll let you know that it's copied. It gives you a little green check mark. And then head to a QR code generator. So I like a free resource. You can do a Google search for QR code generator. It should look like this, where you can paste in your code and then download the QR code. And once you download this, you can pull it and drag it and drop it into your PowerPoint file. And that will send people back to the PDF of your resources. So that's a really quick way to give people the information, but not take up unnecessary space on your slide.
Okay, and you can add as many like links as you want to that one QR code. Perfect.
One link, one QR code.
Oh, okay, okay,
So I would make like a PDF, like I would type up my references, save it as a PDF in my OneDrive, and then use the link to that PDF to generate the QR code.
okay.
Yeah.
Got
And you can meet with me one-on-one if you want help with it as well.
I may. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Do it. I look forward to it.
it. Thank you.
So I just put this in the chat, but I want to say it out loud. If anyone is having trouble locating the Canvas page that we've referenced, please stay behind. We'll have a quick chat about how to get you the information. And it is 4:41, just to be sensitive to everybody's time.
All right, I actually do have to go. I've got a student at my door, but thank you guys so much for having me. I hope that you all have a better experience designing your posters now. And I'm always available. Thank you all so much.